My cognitive skills were activated as an author, student of film, media arts specialist, licensed cultural practitioner, and publisher when I juxtapose how the sun comports itself in relation to the moon against how people comport themselves in relation to photography and tourism. Photo and tourism are not a myth, but a genre captured within my theoretical story. Through my lens, the merger of two words, photo and tourism, created a portmanteau. Portmanteau is a word that is formed by combining photo and tourism, which are different terms, to create a new entity, namely phototourism. Through blending the songs and meanings of these two existing words, namely photo and tourism, at the same time, the portmanteau creates a new expression, namely phototourism. That is a linguistic blend of the two individual terms. Phototourism is also juxtaposed against the theory the moon shines because its surface reflects light from the sun. Historically, tourism explicitly states in detail how it was managed in 1772 and tourism in 1811. It is formed from the word tour, which is derived from Old English touraine, from Old French tourner, from Latin tournere, to turn on a lathe, which is itself from ancient Greek tournos, lathe. The word photography derives from Greek and literally means drawing with light, whilst according to Nell Lepper, tourism is travel for pleasure or business. The year 1811 is given by the Oxford Dictionary for the first appearance of the word tourism. The root or etymology, according to other dictionaries, is the Greek word for a tool used in describing a circle. In a sense, tourism intrinsically involves circular itinerary, in that tourists return to their point of origin, home. Through my lens of definition, tourism demand is defined as the number of people that plan to buy tourism products, supported by sufficient purchasing power and spare time in order to meet tourism needs of people. Marco Polo's travel in the 13th century, the grand tour of the British aristocracy to Europe in the 18th century, and the journeys of David Livingstone through Africa in the 19th century implies that tourism existed very early. It is virtually impossible to discuss tourism and inadvertently omit landmarks. Historically, landmarks serve as markers for both tourists and locals. They are often decided based on permanence, nobility, and significance, and oftentimes serve to highlight both places of historical and navigational significance in a community. In the beginning, landmarks serve to enable people and animals to venture out for food and such necessities and to return home with little problem. The inclusive nature of this topic, phototourism, has its own rubric. Rubric comes from the Latin word for red. A rubric inserted in this conversation has to do with a coherent set of criteria for people that includes descriptions of levels of performance quality on the criteria, which are also wrapped up in a role played by us global citizens. Metaphorically, we are perceived as conduits, and whether we are cognizant of the fact or not, every time we press a shutter button, we freeze memories. Beaches, theme parks, and campgrounds are often the most common places frequented by recreational tourists. If the objective of one's visit to a particular place is to get to know its history and culture, then this type of tourism is known as cultural tourism. Practically, international tourism has two types, that is, inbound tourism and outbound tourism. Inbound tourism means when the foreign tourists are received by a country. Overall, photography and tourism etymology are of Greek origin, and this is no surprise because Greek recorded ancient philosophy and is the basis of languages. The same also characterizes global citizens as practitioners, metaphorically, who focuses their lens on managing light to right within their geographical precincts of the doctrine of demand, which is affected by disposable income, costs, competition, distribution of wealth, supply competition, advertising, vacation entitlements, exchange rates, government regulations, and tax policy. These are dynamic elements which are always changing, although they are intertwined with an area's landscape, cultures, customs, and history of culture that reflect the light of culture and people who practice cultivation and nurture. Theoretically speaking, my story is predicated on Newton's third law theory. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, and reflecting the light of which is also part of culture and people who practice cultivation and nurture. Now that the proverbial dust is settled regarding phototourism, evidently it is just a pretext to tell my story about the merger of two words, photo and tourism, that created Portmanteau, was captured in 10 chapters and framed in ISBN 978 976 9657915.